second episode of the Soul Book Club. Today, we'll be reading a piece from Ishmael called The Gangster's Death, which is about the death of John F. Kennedy, or so I assume. How did he die? Oh, if I told you, you would slap your hand against your forehead and say, good grief, if I gripped you by the lapel and told you how they dumped the thalidomide hand grenades into his bloodstream and how they injected a cyst into his spirit the size of an egg, which grew and grew until floating gangrene encircled the globe, and how gorillas dropped from trees like mean pythons and squeezed out his life, so that jungle birds fled their perches, so that hand-clapping monkeys tumbled from branches, and how 12-year-olds snatched B-52s from the skies with their bare hands, and how Betty Grable couldn't open a Hershey bar without the wrapper exploding, and how thin bent women wrapped bicycle chains around their knuckles saying, we will fight until the last bra, or give us bread or shoot us, and how killing him became child's play in Da Nang, in Mekong, in Santo Domingo, and how rigor mortis was sprinkled in Boston soups, giving rum-running families stiff backaches so that they were no longer able to sit at the elbow of the president with turkey muskets, or sit on their behinds watching the boat races off Massachusetts through field glasses, but how they found their duck pants pulled off in the get back in the alleys of the world, and how they were rooted by the people, spitting into their palms, just waiting to use those lobster pinches or smash the martini glass, and how they warned him and gave him a chance with no behind the back Dillinger killing by flat-headed dicks, but how they held megaphones in their fists saying, come out with your hands up, and how, refusing to believe the jig was up, he accused them of apocalyptic barking, saying at the corner of his mouth, come in and get me, how they snagged at his cocky legs until their mouths were full of ankles and calves, and how they sank their teeth into his swanky jugular, getting the sweet taste of Max Factor on their tongues, and how his screams were so loud that the skins of eardrums blew off, and blood trickled down the edges of mouths, and people got hip to his aliases. I mean, democracy and freedom began bouncing all over the world like bad checks, as people began scratching their heads and stroking their chins, as the rhetoric stuck in his fat throat while he quoted men with frills on their wrists and fake moles on their cheeks and swans in their snuff boxes, who sit in Gilbert Stuart's portraits talking like Baroque clocks, who sit talking turkey talk to people who say, we don't want to hear it, as they lean over their plows reading Mao, wringing the neck of turkeys and making turkey talk gobble in upon itself in Mekong, in Da Nang, in Santo Domingo. And Che Guevara made personal appearances everywhere. Che Guevara in Macy's, putting incendiary flowers on marked-down hats, and women snatching out each other's eyes over ambulances. Che Guevara in Congress, putting TNT shavings in the inkwells, and politicians tripped over their jowls trying to get away. Che Guevara in small towns and hamlets, where cans jumped from the hands of stock clerks in flaming supermarkets, where skyrocketing devil's food cakes contain the teeth of Republican bankers, where the steer of gentlemen farmers shoot over the moon like beefy missiles, while underdeveloped people stand in road shoulders saying, fly Che, fly Bob, a few for us, put cement on his feet and take him for a ride. Oh, Walt Whitman, visionary of leaking faucets, great granddaddy of drips, you said, I hear America singing, but how can you sing when your throat is slit? And how can anyone see you when your head bobs in a sewer? In Da Nang, in Mekong, in Santo Domingo, and look at them weep for a stiff, a limp dead hood, bishops humping their backsides, folding their hands in front of their noses, forming a human carpet for a zombie, men and women looking like sick dust mops, running their busted thumbs across whiskey-headed guitars, weeping into the evil-smelling carnations of Babyface McNamara and Killer Rusk, whose arms are loaded with hijacked breasts and peace wreaths, and Look at them hump this stiff in Harlem, sticking out their lower lips, and because he two-timed them, midget Manichaeans shaking their fists in bulletproof telephone booths, dialing leg bar on long distance, receiving extraterrestrial, sorry, wrong number, seeing big-nosed black people land in spaceships, seeing swamp gas, shoveling inauthentic fireballs down their throats, bursting their lungs on existentialist rope skipping. Look at them mourn, drop-dead egalitarians and CIA polyglots crying into their billfolds, "We must love one another or die," while little boys wipe out whole regiments with bamboo sticks, while wrinkle-faced Mandarin stole 17 megatons in haiku. For people have been holding his death birds on their wrists, and his death birds make their arms sag with their filthy nests, and his death birds ate the baby's testicles, and they got sick and fed up with those goddamn birds, and they brought their wrists together and puffed their jaws and blued and shooed these death birds away, and he is mourned by drop-dead egalitarians and CIA polyglots and midget Manichaeans and Brooks Brothers black people throwing valentines at crackers for a few spoons by Kirk's old Maryland's engraved, for look at Lassie's purple tongue, for a lock of Roy Rogers' hair, for Lawrence Welk's champagne bubble. As for me, like the man said, I'm always glad when the chickens come home to roost.